Hello, everyone. Har Har Mahadev. Now, today we are here to discuss about Jupiter's transit in the nakshatra of Ashlesha, which is happening on 19th of August 2026. And it is going to be there till 31st of October 2026, till the time it moves into the nakshatra of Magha. Right? So let's discuss about this transit video regarding all the zodiac signs. But before that, let's understand what does this transit mean. Before we move ahead, if you guys are new to my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get regular updates. Also, for your personal readings, you can check out the link in the description box, www.anmolastrology.com. Under reading and unique reading section, you can book a personal reading for yourself. Under the courses section, you can sign up for online courses. All right. So let's get started with Jupiter in the nakshatra of Ashlesha. So previously we did a video on Jupiter in the nakshatra of Pushya. Now this time, leaving the nakshatra of Pushya, Jupiter is entering into the nakshatra of Ashlesha. Let's not forget that Jupiter still is in its exaltation sign. So, a lot of things about Jupiter being exalted are going to be part of these predictions, regardless of the fact that we know that Ashlesha Nakshatra can be psychologically complex and intense. So why don't we first learn about what does Jupiter do in a zodiac sign, and especially when it is exalted? See, Jupiter naturally is the planet that is responsible for our fortune, for our higher knowledge, and not just higher knowledge, but higher understanding. This is a particular planet which naturally rules the ninth and the 12th house. And these two houses are the houses which develop our belief system and which tells us how a person thinks. Whether they are pessimistic or they are optimistic, or what sort of understanding do they have? See, Mercury is how we process an information. Jupiter is how you establish your wisdom out of that information. So there's a difference. Jupiter is your learnings and even your teachings. See, every person has a teacher within them. You help someone with your education, you help someone with your knowledge, you advise someone something, command someone something. Everything is related to your Jupiter. What kind of suggestions do you receive? What kind of wisdom do you receive? What kind of people help you? That is also Jupiter, right? So Jupiter, being the ninth and the 12th lord, would represent travels, would represent your comforts. It would represent how you think, how you believe in, how your morals are, right? So when we have this Jupiter into the zodiac sign of Cancer, it feels that it is able to express itself completely. See, there are certain other things to be learned about Jupiter also, which is Jupiter is the karka of expansion. Jupiter is the strategist. How good of a strategy do you form? How well do you think? How well do you observe and come out with your suggestions? That is Jupiter. Right? So when Jupiter is coming into the zodiac sign of Cancer, it is able to be at a pedestal where it can suggest others, where it can be respectable, it can be evident and important human being or a person who is able to suggest, who is able to take on responsibility, who is able to help, and who is able to guide. That's the reason Jupiter does well into the zodiac sign of Cancer. But one thing I think it's not very much talked about and mentioned, that Jupiter naturally it holds the ether element, but it also has one of the fire element as a part of it. That's the reason Jupiter has its mole trikon sign as Sagittarius. And Jupiter is the fire of dharma. It's the fire of the truth. Right? So, putting a planet which does extremely well in fire zodiac signs, we are putting it in a water zodiac sign. Now, we need to know that it's not as impulsive and as free or freedom oriented like it would be in a fire sign. So, here Jupiter comes with responsibility. It doesn't just come and fight for the dharma, impulsively react for something, and is able to just express itself wherever it wants to. No. It there adds on a lot of intelligence, a lot of thinking of the mind when Jupiter comes into the zodiac sign of Cancer. Because you don't have to just now fight for the dharma, fight for what is right, fight for the truth, but rather you need to diplomatically express the truth. Diplomatically use your knowledge for the welfare of everyone, or by being a guiding source, or by being able to imply yourself. Right? So here Jupiter very responsibly gives out its mechanism. That's the reason Jupiter feels comfortable and exalted in the fourth house or in the zodiac sign of Cancer. So this theme is still going to sustain. The only difference is that previously we had it in Pushya and now we are going to have it in Ashlesha. Now, I won't just run around the bush here. In the last video of Jupiter and Pushya, we understood that the main focus of this transit of Jupiter in Pushya, what it is going to do is that it is going to focus so much on certain goals that it is going to forget what are the underlying factors which are also equally important. So that's why we are most probably going to miss out upon certain factors or unacknowledge certain factors, because of which the deceptive side of Pushya will also come about. Right? Now we are moving from that energy to the energy of Ashlesha, which in itself is deceptive. But why to always say that Ashlesha is deceptive? See, it's very different of Moon being in this nakshatra, Mercury being in this nakshatra, Venus being in this nakshatra, any planet, and even Rahu being in this nakshatra. Then I can say that the deceptive part is more prominent. But here we have Jupiter. Jupiter does everything for a reason, for the benefit of everyone, because ultimately it's the teacher. Even if the teacher scolds you, they do it for the sake of you yourself. Right? So that's the reason Jupiter in Ashlesha is not exactly deceptive. But it is about working around with information or working around with circumstances to identify the core problem and provide the solution. That's what Jupiter in Ashlesha stands for. But one thing we are going to understand here is that Jupiter in Pushya was trying to bring in growth, expansion, and helpfulness by nurturing, by providing, right? By doing all the things of the what the Pushya represents. But now in Ashlesha, it's about digging deep, being more of an investigator for understanding what is lying deep beneath or what is the underlying information. If suppose Jupiter in Pushya is about this is a particular principle, we need to follow that. Jupiter in Ashlesha is about this is a particular principle that we have understood, which has to be followed. But what's lining beneath it? What is which is creating this the foundation of this principle of this belief? Right? So Jupiter is about digging deep into this zodiac sign when it comes into Ashlesha. Now it's not always deceptive, right? But it's definitely manipulative, right? Like our mothers do that to us when we are a small person, when we are we are small children, when we are toddlers, when we are unable to understand what is right or wrong, when teachers try to handle us in a very manipulative and diplomatic way because they know that we lack understanding. We are not going to understand everything if we are just straightforwardly, asked to do something. We would never do that as a toddler, as a small child, right? So that's what this energy carries. And one thing, always remember, if Pushya is about the third party situation we get to experience because we have been focusing on one certain thing and ignoring the rest, then Ashlesha is about one-sided efforts. Always, you will see one thing, whichever planet comes into Ashlesha. Because, see, right now we are talking about Jupiter, but for a person's individual chart, maybe your Jupiter is ruling your 10th house. Maybe your Jupiter is ruling your first house. For some, it might be ruling your seventh house. So, Jupiter will signify different areas for different individuals. But when Jupiter comes into Ashlesha or any planet when comes into Ashlesha, it means there is going to be one-sided efforts. Like, for example, I'll quote it with the simplest example of Venus in Ashlesha. In Venus in Pushya, a person tends to get deception or third party situation in their love because they're so busy in working towards money, collecting money, luxury, growth in their in the materialistically in their savings and everything, right? In when Venus is in Ashlesha, you have to be yours, you have to just bow down in front of your marriage. You have to put ample amount of efforts within your marriage, regardless of knowing that the other person is not equally invested or equally doing the same. And it can be vice versa. It just means that with Ashlesha, one of the parties, either you having Ashlesha or the other person, this particular planet is representing, like spouse in case of Venus, that either one of you has to take the upper hand. So one-sided efforts are something that we see in Ashlesha. And when Jupiter comes into Ashlesha, during this transit, we are going to understand that we have to leave our expectations onto the side and just fulfill what our responsibilities are towards wherever the zodiac sign of Cancer is, or whatever planet is sitting in your natal chart into the zodiac sign of Cancer. It's like your efforts, one, because the identification of what was the core problem or what was the thing that you were ignoring, or not intentionally but unconsciously you were ignoring, what was that was identified while Jupiter was in Pushya. Now it's about going through the turmoil, going through the transformation, going through the intense change within your own perspective, your own wisdom, your own beliefs, and to ultimately understand by the month of October that you have to fulfill your responsibilities, your part of karma in regards of wherever your Cancer zodiac sign is, and not expect anything in return. or just leave or heal yourself through your expectations. Because Ashlesha Nakshatra, since it falls into this zodiac sign of Cancer, it is involved with attachment. So here, when Jupiter is in Ashlesha, you have to learn your wisdom through intense attachment and detachment. That's what the karma is about. And see, this nakshatra is about the serpent. So we have two things involved with serpent. One, that serpents are poisonous. There's the poison. This poison will either heal you or this poison will kill you. But more so with Ashlesha, this poison is like when you know that something is wrong, but you are not willing to accept that something is wrong. Because your judgment is clouded by your emotions, by your attachment. Jupiter will make you learn that how it's important to acknowledge and have the right judgment. Not, it's not about fighting, it's not about being disappointed, but it's about acknowledging within yourself that we need to understand that something which is visibly in front of your eyes, you have to accept it. You don't have to fear it, that I cannot accept that the person is deceiving me or the other individual is not the way I was portraying or I was exaggerating that this person is. That's the major core theme of this particular nakshatra. So that's what we say in Hindi na, that it's something like that, zehar ka ghoot peena, right? So you have to, just like Mahadev, Lord Shiva, took the poison and held it in his throat. That's what we have to do with Jupiter in Ashlesha. So, addressal, acknowledgement. You either do it your way, you either do it just straight away, or you just have to go through that intense transformation, intense hurt through your expectations to understand and finally come into settlement that yes, that must be accepted and acknowledged. So don't try to hide anyone. Don't try to put a blanket upon the shenanigans of anyone where the zodiac sign of Cancer it is. The acceptance is there. The leaving of your expectations of through that area is there. So the first thing with serpent is the venom or the poisonous medicine that we have. The second one is that serpent represents the cycle, the karmic cycle. And rather, I would say Jupiter in Ashlesha would represent the ending of the karmic cycle. It's time to end the patterns that have been constantly moving in circles. It's time to end the psychological patterns, the mistakes that we have been doing repetitively all over again. It's time to acknowledge and leave them so that new things can begin when Jupiter moves into Magha. So these are the two representations of the serpent energy. And then it's also the serpent is related to the Nagas. And rather, I would say with Jupiter being in this nakshatra, during this transit, it's actually about the observance of Nagas because Jupiter is here. It's the guidance that comes from deep beneath. It's the investigating source that comes from deep beneath. Nagas were the most knowledgeable, most practiced, most expert Ayurvedas or the healers, right? So the way they had the tendency to identify the deep underlying issue from the foundation and heal that from within. That's what this Naga, the serpent energy, is going to help us with Jupiter's presence here. Also, Nagas, they first observe, then they move or act. That's what Jupiter will make us learn, that how important it is to first observe the surroundings, and then move. And Naga energy is very conscious, very self-conscious, and conscious of the surroundings. So that's what we are going to feel in regards of the zodiac sign of Cancer. Now, apart from this, we have Jupiter into the nakshatra of Mercury. So if Jupiter is wisdom, Mercury is the understanding, right? So if Jupiter is the truth, Mercury is what's logical and what's useful within that truth. It's not the whole truth. It will just pick whatever is necessary for the moment. So Jupiter will help us work on the core issue during this transit of it within this nakshatra of Mercury. Another thing that we may experience here is that Jupiter is exaggeration. So when it comes into the nakshatra like Ashlesha, it means there's exaggeration of information. So wherever the zodiac sign of Cancer is present, there can be exaggeration of information, and even a person, and this I think I have already said in the video of Jupiter through Pushya Nakshatra, that this particular Jupiter is actually going to overly exaggerate about what it has in regards of the zodiac sign of Cancer, right? But in Ashlesha specifically, because now we are getting the energy of Jupiter into the zodiac sign of Moon and into the nakshatra of Mercury. So it can be overly exaggerating about one's feeling. And those feelings can come about much assumptuous. Like, for example, if you get disappointed because of certain expectations that you have of others, and you are going to overly exaggerate the hurt that you're going to get from it, or the detachment, or the kind of lesson that you're going to get out of it. So that is also one thing that is going to happen here. Yeah, so that is what we are going to see as the understanding of Jupiter's transit in the nakshatra of Ashlesha. Right now, let's talk about each and every zodiac sign. Please understand that first look for your ascendant zodiac sign, then look for your Chandra or moon zodiac sign. For the reason that ascendant would decide what changes or what effects you are going to have in your circumstances or in your surroundings. And whereas the zodiac sign of your moon or the Rashi is going to decide how it will psychologically affect you. All right, so let's get started with the Muhurat chart first and then the zodiac signs. It's Cancer ascendant that we have as the Muhurat chart. We have Jupiter in the ascendant in the zodiac sign of Cancer in Ashlesha Nakshatra, along with Mercury, the lord of the nakshatra itself, and in the same nakshatra. So definitely career-wise and even on the personal level, with this Jupiter and Mercury conjunction, it's highly analytical and strategic. I do feel this is a time with Jupiter in Ashlesha, along with Mercury also being there, that our sense of self and even our sense of how we are in relationships, not just love relationships, but all the unions that we have with others, whether it's friendships, whether it's love, whether it's, siblings, it's anything, any sort of relationship. We are here to deal with the underlying issues that we have never talked about or we have ignored, right? Ignored in a way Like, certain times we tend to not acknowledge the motives of others because we are blindsided with our own emotions and love. That's what is going to trigger this transformative process. Because, see, we have Jupiter and Mercury together in a water sign, which actually also produces misunderstandings. Although all of us would have had that urge to express our gratitude, to express our expectations, to express our emotions, whether good or bad, while Jupiter was in Pushya, right? While Jupiter is in the zodiac sign of Cancer. But at the same time, when now it is entering in Ashlesha, now when Mercury is also along with that, we might have to take certain decisions which would appear, I'm not saying it's actually, but it would appear to be selfish. Because these transits are going to force us to be more analytical, be more thoughtful, and look for the underlying problem and provide the solution. For that, we have to go through tremendous amount of transitions, expectations, breaking of expectations, all of the such things we can expect. See, along with that, we have Sun and Ketu conjunction. Second from this conjunction, Jupiter, Mercury. Then we have Venus debilitated at the point this transit happens. We have Saturn retrograde, trine to Jupiter. So this particular conjunction is actually not being aspected by any planet, but it's hemmed between Sun and Mars, right? And then we have Moon also in the fourth house in the zodiac sign of Libra. With Moon in the fourth house, and that too in the nakshatra of Swati, in a very independent zodiac sign of Libra, is all about bringing in balance, negotiating at the same time emotionally. So this steps that we'll take or this decisions that we'll take, which will make us look as selfish, it's actually not about being selfish. It's about choosing what is important. It's about leaving the blind-sightedness. It's about choosing yourself. But actually, this particular transit of Jupiter in Ashlesha, along with Moon, quadrant to it, creating a very nice Gaj Kesari Yoga. Because here Jupiter is exalted, and then Moon is quadrant to Jupiter. These decisions, it's like Jupiter in Ashlesha along with Mercury is making us decide for ourselves. It's making us take those decisions which were long left behind because one after another, there were certain things that we have to take care of. So, whether it's about you fulfilling your responsibilities towards yourself, or it's about you fulfilling your responsibilities regarding what your responsibilities are without any expectations, that is what we are going to see while Jupiter is in Ashlesha. But definitely, it will make us all look selfish or selfishly deciding certain things. But you understand that this deception that is appearing to be there, it's actually not deception. It's just that we are forced by the circumstances to not just be standing for the expectation of others, but rather standing upon the expectation of ourselves. So, Ashlesha is very, very misunderstood nakshatra. It's misunderstood for deception. It can be deceptive, but with certain planets' presence, certain good planets, but highly afflicted, that's when this Ashlesha turns to be very deceptive. But when we have Jupiter there, and we have the Lord of this nakshatra being influenced by Jupiter, if we have had Mercury only sitting in Ashlesha, then the story would have been different. But we have Jupiter along with it. So your understanding is influenced by wisdom. Your thought process, your communication, everything is influenced by wisdom. And talking about your emotions, talking about what hurts you, talking about what comforts you, that has now become the evident thing, the most important factor. Because Jupiter brings in expansion. It is expanding the qualities of Ashlesha. It's expanding the ability to express in the right way. And the expression which is very, very necessary. But at the same time, because we have Venus debilitated, we have to put relationships on a side for some time. Right? So that's what this particular Muhurat chart is about. Now, let's first start with the zodiac sign of Cancer. For Cancer individuals, this particular transit is happening in your ascendant, right? So, definitely, ever since Jupiter has entered Cancer, it has been a roller coaster. A roller coaster which is not visible in the circumstances or even outwards. It's the internal roller coaster. I think after a long time, Cancer people have actually found the sense of direction because Jupiter has given you that sense of direction. Previously, Cancer individuals did choose to retaliate, to oppose what doesn't make them feel comfortable, right? So you did acknowledge that there are certain boundaries you need to make, right? In regards of the family dynamics, in regards of your communication, everything. Now it's about healing yourself from within so that all the hurt, all the negative emotions within you heals. By you understanding and acknowledging that is it important for me to disturb my peace because of my own expectations with others? Like they are not harmed. They are not thinking about it. It is me who has been thinking about it all the time. So it's a major sense of direction that Cancerians would be having with this Jupiter's transit in Ashlesha in the first house. And because of that, you yourself will be misleading others. Like not misleading with a bad intention, but with the attention of protecting your own energy. So this misleading, actually, I'm not getting the right word, which is more humble, right? But I know misleading refers to, yeah, just misleading, someone else and something negative. But it's about you're trying to put up boundaries, but you just are not feeling that, just being blunt, just being totally brutal is the right way to do so. But you are slowly and steadily feeling that inside you, that something inside you is actually changing. And you're trying to be a bigger person to deal with such situations. There will be certain things you'll be handling very, very bluntly. And there will be certain things where you'll be handling things very manipulatively and very diplomatically. for which you'll be highly misunderstood. But at the same time, you're doing that because there were so many things which were accumulated over a period of time, over a couple of years. And now that's the best solution you have found for yourself, that that's how now I can do certain things. That's how I can put up the boundary at the same time not hurting everyone straight away. But definitely you'll feel more aligned with your inner personality, with your comforts. You're doing everything now for yourself, for feeling comforted physically, emotionally, everything. You're choosing to take the charge of yourself, of your home dynamics, of your own peace. And that's what this Jupiter in Ashlesha would help you with. And this is actually the most important time for you to strategically follow your passion and represent your skills. So I think in regards of work, profession, job, something creative, it's very, very good. It's full of opportunities. But you will be in a state where you'll have to choose wisely. Okay. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Leo. For Leo individuals, Jupiter is in Ashlesha in the 12th house. One thing is there with Jupiter in the 12th house in Ashlesha, along with Mercury, do not say what you do not mean. Do not promise what you cannot fulfill. Because Jupiter and Mercury, it's a Saraswati yoga. It's in your subconscious. It's in your second house. Sorry, 12th house. Sorry. So do what your heart says, but try not to say that. Not to say something which you cannot fulfill. Trust me on this. This is something very superstitious also, but just say what you actually mean. That's very important, right? Just promise what you actually mean. Because I do feel this is a very, very deceptive energy. It's an energy which has given you the qualities, which has given you the blessings of whatever you will say actually will carry a lot of weightage. But if you do not fulfill it, you do not match those expectations, then people will feel that you have been deceptive. And I do feel there's a prominent expenditure you have to undertake. I do see you may even fall for deception or cheating in regards of documentation or money with someone. Like, it can be related to an ashram, it can be related to some spiritual space, foreign government, foreign lands, or even a, a contract, right? So that is going to be a matter of worry within your mind. But subconsciously, this is a very, very good conjunction. It's a very creative conjunction. Like, if you are a creator, you will have ideas of lifetime. And this is a very, very spiritual placements that I can see here in this chart. So I definitely would say that this is the time for you to enlighten in spirituality. You may also travel, and there can be chances that the expenditure is undertaken upon travel. And I do feel that you are going to be very much inclined towards working upon your skills and improvising your actions, improvising your efforts. Because right now, I feel you are going to be misunderstood with the actions that you're doing, the efforts that you're making. And something is not well balanced related to money, related to expenditure. So be very careful of deception on that end. All right. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Virgo. For Virgo individuals, we have Jupiter in Ashlesha in the 11th house with Mercury. So it does show that you will have the ability to help someone in your social circle. But you might actually choose to help them because of your own selfish reason. And that may lead to them feeling that you are like misunderstanding your presence. But at the same time, this Jupiter and Mercury is actually inclining you towards the fact that you have to use your strategic mind, your analytical understanding of how you can do better with your career, how you can grab certain opportunities. But if you have an elder sibling or if you have friends in general, you definitely need to watch out which advice to follow, which suggestion to follow. Because there can be very deceptive influence coming from there because your circle is widening up. Your circle is expanding. At the same time, this is also a time where you would actually get the wisdom and lesson of understanding that which is the right person for you, who actually has good intentions for you. It's the time where you are identifying your enemies, which have taken on the cover of your friends. And they are in your surroundings as your friends, but actually internally they are no less than your enemies. Right? So for Virgo individuals, this is the time to find your way to the top, to find your way to the recognition because it's Ashlesha. It's not going to come towards you just like that. You will have to work hard for it. You will have to use your senses, your brain for it. But yes, in regards of money, this particular duration, this particular transit can actually be very good. You can gain money through very unexpected sources. All right. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Libra. For Libra individuals, we have Jupiter transiting Ashlesha in the 10th house. See, 10th house is the Jupiter's natural debilitated position. And then we have Ashlesha over there. Your image or your status can be misleading. Your image can be misinterpreted in front of others. Or people may actually misunderstand you or your image. There would definitely be something happening. The way you are handling things, the way you are acting, that can actually lead to people misunderstanding you. But since this Jupiter is actually exalted, you will be able to get back on your feet, definitely. But just be a little careful that your colleagues, your friends do not harm your image. Be vigilant of that. Be cautious of that. At the same time, I do feel there will be situation within your workspace where you will get opportunity of expansion. But that opportunity of expansion would require you taking certain firm decisions out of the blue, or out of your actual personality, or out of the expectation that people have from you. So there's something very eccentric that you will be doing in order, like towards your career, right? At the same time, your career right now would require research. It would require a lot of, you know, either dealing with documentations or dealing with people, communications, communicating here and there, and a lot of communicative, things. But avoid any sort of gossip, avoid any sort of over communication from your side. All right. And definitely because it's Jupiter in Ashlesha in the 10th house with Mercury, your bosses, if you're working in a corporate, you're working under someone, even if you're doing business, you may encounter certain population now, certain clients or certain people to deal with. Or maybe you have, you are suppose a creator, like a artistic person, and there's something that you buy from someone and they misguide you or mislead you. Or if you are working in a job environment, there can be authorities or people you consider your mentors. They might also mislead you. But there's something deceptive coming from there. At the same time, there's a heavy need of healing your image, and to project your command, your presence, your authority. That's what is very much needed, right? Next, we have the zodiac sign of Scorpio. For Scorpio individuals, Jupiter and Mercury is going into the ninth house in Ashlesha. So, this particular, for Scorpios, I definitely feel there is a chance that you go for higher learning, for higher education. But the process is a bit like it's moving slow, or it's delayed, or it's like you need to kickstart it, because it's like running like a car which is not working properly. And I do see travel. I do see leaving home. There can be some misunderstandings developing with the father or the father figure or even gurus. There can be even misleading guidance, misleading belief that you are having. It can also show, yeah, it is showing me actually travel not just for education or for work, it's showing me travel for leisure purpose also. At the same time, it's a complicated scenario, because see, we have Mars in the eighth house, then we have Jupiter and Mercury in the ninth, Sun and Ketu in the 10th, so it's hemmed. It's creating the Pap Katri Yoga. Then we have a debilitated Venus, right? And then Moon. So there's a lot of concentration between the houses from 8th to 12th. So lots and lots of changes that I see with Jupiter going in Ashlesha. But at the same time, your guidance is getting corrupted. And I do feel that a person with Scorpio in ascendant or Scorpio moon, they can get negatively influenced by someone they look up to. And also, there are certain firm decisions you will require to make. And even, this deception will come into light regarding a teacher. Maybe suppose there was a teacher who was showing you that they are in favor of you, but actually they were not working in favor of you. They were deceiving you on the backside. It might be for your own good or for not. That's of course up to your own natal placements. But it's a very occupied and very deceptive energy that I feel for Scorpio individuals. Right? Now we have the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. For Sagittarius individuals, Jupiter is in the eighth house. You're definitely being very, very investigative. There can be some secrets, those are going to come out. Some suddenness or sudden recognition that you are going to experience. There is some sort of, you know, misunderstanding to be created, either because of certain secrets coming out or with your in-laws, because that's what eighth house is for, or regarding your joint assets with your partner. But this Jupiter and Mercury in the eighth house actually makes me understand that you are going to dive deeper into your emotions, which are deep hidden, deep rooted. And it's all about healing now. It's all about trying to heal oneself. At the same time, it actually, to some extent, does show that you may experience deception or some deceptive energy in regards of finances. Or even your spouse would be experiencing that. Even you can experience that in part of your spouse. This Jupiter and Mercury in the eighth house also calls for quick changes or sudden increments, sudden things happening. Right? But definitely Jupiter and Mercury is giving you deep sense of acknowledgement, deep sense of understanding. And definitely during this transit of Jupiter in Ashlesha, you'll be so involved into investigation. You'll be so observant, so investigative, and you'll be feeling that there's a need for me to change myself, or transform myself. And the way you project your emotions, the way you get your attachment with others, that is going to absolutely change. It's like, you're coming in light with your sense of belief of others. All right. Now, next, it's actually a very deceptive energy in terms of relationship also. So be aware of that. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Capricorn. For Capricorn individuals, we have Jupiter transiting in Ashlesha in the seventh house with Mercury. So definitely there's some misunderstanding happening within your relationships. There's some deception happening in part of relationships, and you are being you know why this is happening? Because you are being quite authoritative when it comes to your relationship. You are in that rebel mode of communication where you're just constantly questioning everything. And that's why it's actually making you, understanding in part of your relationships. That's what Jupiter and Mercury in the seventh house represents. That's the misunderstanding that is being formed because of relationships. Right? With Jupiter and Mercury in the seventh house, I see a very, very communicative, scenario with others. And at the same time, I do feel that relationships for you, and especially your marriage, would need a transition, would need you to talk about deep issues. There's a necessity to talk about deep rooted issues so that they don't harm the marriage, they don't harm the union. And I see, no, it's not about your partner being deceptive, but it's more of you being deceptive towards your marriage. Because you're trying to choose yourself. You're trying to choose because you were not able to express it correctly. So now you're choosing to leave that space by choosing yourself, by doing what you want to do. But this is a very, very good, transit for you having ideas for your career. You're going to take certain decisions for your career based on your emotions because you'll feel that this particular job, this particular work is not satisfying me emotionally. So that's why I need to make certain decisions. I need to take a stand for myself. Right? And also, I see there can be some, expenditure to be made. There's some expenditure upon relocation, upon traveling, or even upon connecting, socializing, something of that sort. All right. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Aquarius. For Aquarius individuals, Jupiter is in the sixth house. You know, for Aquarius people, it actually talks about healing. Jupiter being in 6,000 in Ashlesha with Mercury. First of all the people who are trying to guide you are the deceptive ones. People in at your workspace are the biggest deceivers. Right? So there's a lot and lot of deceptive energy within your workspace, and it's deceptive to the extent that they are appearing to be actually very good to you on your face, but internally, you have that intuition that that they are not the best people for you. That's why your healing is required for your own peace, for your own routine, and even for your health. Your health, you are completing a cycle with your health. You're completing a loop with your health. And you're completing a cycle also with your prarabdha karma, with your unchangeable karma. It's the time to acknowledge that yes, I am dealing with a, a karma I was born with from my past life. And I need to have the bigger understanding, the higher understanding of it that yes, I need to fulfill this karma. Relationships do not absolutely feel to be at the best place, at the best scenario. But definitely there's a lot of deception in your workspace. It's a lot of deception in your surrounding. And you'll have to deal with it wisely. And there's definitely some paperwork that you have to do. There's some strategic work, paperwork, monetary work as well, either taking off debt or repaying debt. There's some transactions you will have to take care of. And even there are chances you can be deceived regarding money or regarding wrong influence with your relatives, your extended family, right? But this Jupiter is healing everything from the core. It is healing your competition, it is healing you physically, it is healing your health, and it is going to heal your finances as well. All right. Now, the next we have the zodiac sign of Pisces. So for Pisces individual, Jupiter is your ascendant lord. It is going into the fifth house and it is in Ashlesha with Mercury. It's a very, very creative time. You're trying to create something. You're so aligned with your creative self. You're so aligned with your creation. But one thing is there, you'll be very much inclined towards shares, speculation work, gaining through investments, gaining through shares, and try not to be greedy about it. Because otherwise, you can have sudden loss. But if you use this knowledge and information wisely, because it's a very knowledgeable conjunction that is coming in your fifth house, and that too in Ashlesha, you are going to observe such important patterns and factors that are used for speculation, that are going to help you actually in the longer time. But at the same time, your actions are being deceptive. It's like you may be coming from a space where you actually want to act as a humanitarian person for others, but the way it is coming out, the way the reactions are coming out, that is turning out to be very deceptive because you're choosing to close off. You're choosing to not express yourself emotionally, to not talk about it rightfully. That's why there can be deception, that I most prominently feel that you are going to be the one. And actually, it can be the partner as well. But there's deception in relationships. There is mm, not much devotion towards relationship. You either want to get out of it, but you're not able to get out of it because you fear that the other person would just not react nicely about it, or it's just that you're choosing to be infidel, you're choosing to not infidel, just infidel, but it can be any sort of deception. But you're choosing to do so because you don't want to confront. Anything could be possible, but the dynamics doesn't feel good in terms of romance, relationships, right? But try to meditate, because I think a lot of negative emotions are there, a lot of negativity is there. And regarding the shares, regarding the speculative gains, please be very cautious, because you definitely can benefit from it, but it will take just one bad decision and everything will be gone. So be a little careful of it. And even it's about your speculative decisions. And also for Pisces individuals, I think you'll actually, if you are preparing for some government exam, there are chances it can get clear. Because I do feel that you have isolated yourself and you have given all your energy and your time and everything into your studies. I do see a very research in oriented time, studies oriented time, investigative oriented time, right? Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Aries. For Aries individual, Jupiter is transiting in the 4,000 Ashlesha. You have to fulfill your responsibilities towards your home and towards your mother. Even though now, with this Jupiter in Ashlesha and with Mercury, you will understand how you were being deceived by your own mother. And especially in regards of your association with others and in regards of your marriage or your relationships. And now it's the time that you confront them. But at the same time, despite of knowing that they did something which wasn't expected from them, you will have to fulfill your duties. This is part of your karma. This is part of the karma you have to deal with. But I do see major conflicts within your relationships. This is the time you are actually going deep within to acknowledge your personal emotions, your personal understanding of your comfort. You're choosing your comfort over anything and everything. This may even make you travel. And trust me, if you go on and travel to a pilgrimage, especially which is related to Lord Shiva, you will get your answers. You will see something transforming and changing within you. You need to relax. Definitely, this is a time you need to relax. And also, I see there are certain changes that you're going to make in terms of your appearance and even in terms of the decoration of your home, maybe structure of your home, renovation, restructuring. Even there can be a possibility of buying something electronic or even buying vehicle. All right. So Jupiter in Ashlesha in the fourth house turns out to be that you're actually completing a circle of karma with your own, mother, with your own emotions, with your family dynamics and the environment of your family as well. And if you are, suppose, in a joint family, you will actually be able to understand, or there will something come out in light which is actually quite deceptive. All right. Now, next we have the zodiac sign of Taurus. For Taurus individuals, we have Jupiter in the third house in Ashlesha, and then Mercury is also there. Actually, it works very, very well for marketing. It works very, very well for strategically planning your ideas, your skills, and even your job change. Jupiter in Ashlesha in the third house would also give you, this time, this whole time of August to October, you'll try to hide certain things in regards of the people you love, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your spouse, whether it's people you love, it's your close friends. You'll just try to hide, you know, save them in order to realize that they don't need the saving. It's you who needs the saving because you are deceiving yourself. And you're just communicating about it because you need reassurance. Trust me, you might not be understanding it right now, but you will understand it once this transit happens and it moves forward. There can be deception from some close friend and even younger sibling. And at the same time, it's like you are deceiving them or they are deceiving you. Something is cooking there, right? But this is a time you can do actually very, very well in terms of your creativity, in terms of your presence upon social media, right? There can be some, I'd see a strong conflict with a close friend or with your younger sibling. That is also there. And there can be some misunderstanding actually. Relationships do not seem to be very good currently. There's, the houses which actually shows us the peace within the home, the peace with the family, that's not there. That's being negatively influenced, right? With Jupiter and Ashlesha in the third house also, it's like your judgment is being clouded by your emotions, and that needs addressal, that needs to be addressed. And be try not to over project and over exaggerate any information. All right. But in regards of your work dynamics, this is a beautiful, you know conjunction and transit to have. You'll do so well in marketing, you will do so well in trading, and even creativity, skill related work, investigative work. It's quite ambitious here. All right. Now, lastly, we have the zodiac sign of Gemini. For Gemini individuals, this particular transit is happening in the second house. You're being deceived by the family, and you have been realizing that. You have been struggling through it. Now, you will be choosing to end this cycle of deception. You will come out and speak about it because we have Mars in the ascendant. You will act upon it. You will talk about it bluntly. Jupiter and Mercury in the second house, there can be some deception in regards of finances in some way, or it's like you are strategically trying to manage your finances. You are setting certain boundaries in terms of your provision, your finances, but definitely something that is being triggered because of underlying issue and deception from the home, from the family. That's what is leading towards this attitude of yours or this decision of yours. So, and also be careful with, actually it's for both. It's for Gemini individuals also, and it's for Leo individuals also. Be careful of addiction. Be away from addiction. And I do feel that you will have to take a stand or take a decision where your family might feel that you're deceiving them or you have hidden certain facts from them, but are doing that for your partner. You're doing that for the betterment of your relationships or your future relationships. You're doing that because you know that this is necessary. This has to be done. Another thing, I see a lot of interest in trading, stock, stocks, shares, speculation. And I do see you'll be very much involved into it. You'll try to gain and make good money out of it. So Jupiter in Ashlesha also does that. But be careful of addictive things. Be careful of addiction. Do not let addiction get to you. And I also feel there is, you might choose Ayurvedic sources or just getting into discipline. You'll be overly cautious of your well-being, your health, and what you eat. So nutrition-wise, you're going to become very, very disciplined, very particular as well. All right. So, guys, this was my analysis about Jupiter transiting into the nakshatra of Ashlesha. I hope this gives you good insights into this topic. We'll see you next time. Bye bye. Take